So, good morning. We are here for the Design Management Breakfast, and we have three guests, Sergio, Carole, and Thomas. And we will talk about their experience studying design management and now working in organizations. And I'm Katharina. I'm a lecturer here and part of the core team. So, as a first question, could you please quickly introduce yourself? When have you finished the program and what are you doing now? And maybe also share what your organization is doing, because sometimes we know the organizations, but not everyone. So, yeah, go ahead.
I'll start.
Yeah.
So my name is Sergio Mistretta, and I finished my studies last year. So I was studying from 2022 to 25. I think. And yes, I now work as in an agency that does mainly marketing. It's called Farner, and I work in a agency of Farner, which is called Blue Glass, and they mainly work in performance marketing, so doing anything digital and gaining digital visibility, and I'm a consultant and strategist in that area.
My name is Carole. Carole Eissa. I start to say my name in German because it's easier. I graduated 10 years ago. So I think 10 years ago I was in your shoes thinking about my bachelor thesis. I currently work as a service designer for the city of Zurich. We're kind of transforming the city services for the citizens, so that they become human-centered.
Good. So my name is Thomas Petrig. It's even a bit longer. I graduated in 2013, so it's quite a while ago. Can't even remember. No, I do. And I made the decision to sort of start my own business. So I've been in consulting for over 10 years, more or less, and now last year I decided to found my own business. And currently, let's say a one-man show to begin with, but already having one or two partners joining. And the studio is called Freya, and we are focused on product and service design, product and service strategy, but also capability building, helping organizations to build their own design competences in-house. Yes, this is pretty much the business we're in right now and the job I'm doing.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. So I'm very glad that the three of you are here today, because I think it's a really nice example of where design managers can work. So, for example, Sergio with marketing, I think it's also a really classic, let's say, pathway for design managers. And from your side with the consultancy, and now this a little bit more emerging, I think, is the public services, where design managers now are starting, and it's building up and hopefully becoming more. So I'm curious how your different experience you have there. When we are looking back, for some it's just a little bit, for some it's a while ago. Can you remember why you decided to study DMI? Yes. Who wants to? Carole, you want to say?
I started in my childhood. No, I will not go back that far. But my father is an artist, and my father always said, "Carole, do whatever makes you happy, but don't start anything creative. You will become poor." And so I had to look at a lot of different fields, dentists and all kind of things. And I started in an office actually, and I was so unhappy. And I was just torn towards this creative field and design, and just wanted to do something in that area. But I didn't want it to go in the completely, practicing area, like product design or so. And I somehow stumbled over this design management and thought, that's it. I wasn't too sure what it was at that point, but it just felt right because it was somehow human-centered, it was design, it was economy, things I knew and things I wanted to learn.
And for me, this is it was my second path, let's say. I started out as an IT systems engineer. So I was very much in IT and systems, but I always was enjoying doing creative stuff on the side. I was very much into photography, drawing, and things like that. And I always knew like I want to somehow get back into the creative space. But through the years, I sort of also figured out that I'd say I felt like I didn't really feel talented in any like crafts related discipline, but I really had the desire to be part of a creative process. And that's sort of what drew me to design management, because I felt like, okay, you're part of a creative process, but you're not necessarily the one executing, but you're even part of like something bigger. And I felt like this is super nice. Plus the international part also like did it for me, because I always enjoyed working in international contexts. So like that was the original reason why I felt like this is the right thing for me.
And I was working in different communication and marketing positions, and I always questioned myself, why do I work better in some organizations than in others? And I was just keen on understanding how can I truly unfold my potential and be myself. And so whatever I was doing before always was very much on the surface level, and always like the numbers need to be correct, and always delivering everything. And I was always questioning every process we had, and I wanted to learn more about that, and that's why design management was very interesting for me. And so yeah, it just also, I wasn't quite sure in the beginning as well what it is, but it also felt right. And yes.
And how did you then experience your time studying here? Are there some moments that stuck with you? Did you have some challenges? How did you overcome them?
Oh, God, yeah, but I mean, yes, I think there were a lot of challenges, because I think sort of the process of re-understanding, I did get all the different subjects I had at school, but I never was able to put together the pictures. Like, how is that going to help me find a job? So like, well, what is actually what I'm going to do after? And this stuck with me for the whole 3 years. So like, even when I graduated, I wasn't quite sure, like, how is that going to help me, like, get out into the world and do something meaningful. And yeah, so that was the main challenge for me, because also has also probably to do with my nature. Also the reason why I chose this study, because I don't have a singular interest or passion, because I was always very broad. And I had a feeling like I could go into innovation, I could go into product management, I could go into like more social design, I could do this, I could do more sustainability. So like, it was always like this, there's so many options, but I didn't really know where to start. And that was probably my main challenge that I had during my studies.
Another challenge was group works. So much group works. And I remember I was like, just leave me alone. I just want to work. But I mean, reality is life is a group work. So it's a really good skill that we learned, that you just have to, you're being mixed with people and you think, I can't work with that person. And then you have to.
It's the reality.
It's the reality.
Later on, yeah.
What stuck with me is also pretty much teamwork is very present to me as well, because it has been quite a journey of also like changing my attitude towards what I want from teamwork, or how I'd expect the teamwork to be like, and shifting expectations from others to just myself, and accepting that we all have different styles and ways of engaging. And for other also to reflect and understand when because the design process is so broad and it can make you feel you insecure. You sometimes tend to project that on others, especially when you're already, some people are not engaging, and then you don't even know what you're doing, and it's just very chaotic. But once you understand that it's fine that you don't know exactly what you're doing, I think one part of the stress goes away, and then you can focus more on the teamwork and the collaboration.
So it's also really a lot of self-development and learning about yourself and how am I in a group, how am I in the project, doing the work yourself. Was there also something that stayed in a positive way? So what was there that was like, oh wow, this stuck somehow, maybe something that you still keep with you?
I have a key moment. It's a super small one, but it changed how I am. From a trend teacher, I think she just gave one lecture, and she was this very exciting woman with all her titles and very important. But she said, I'm always sharing. So whenever you have a question, here are my contact details, just reach out. And I thought that was so impressive that no matter the title, no matter who you are, just stay open, stay interested, and like give back. And she said, whenever you give things, you will always receive things back. And what I did is I really stayed in contact with a lot of people from studying, with like just people around me, and it really helped me through going through my life and my career, because I always had these people around me that were just studying or graduated some time ago and just talked about their views in design. That was something that really stuck around. Super small detail, but yeah.
For you, it's more recent.
There's many moments that are positive. There's many moments that I really enjoyed the process of getting to the degree, but I think what still is very present and positive for me is the self-improvement that I had in those 3 years, and especially during my thesis with Jorge and his feedbacks, and really seeing, kind of also observing myself growing personally in such a short time. And I still think about it a lot, and it changed my attitude towards how I work every day today. So that's very positive.
And yeah, to me, I think mostly the people, I think, is what sort of stuck with me in a very positive way. Not just like other students in my class that I still have contact up to this day, very close friends of mine, but also like teachers that inspired me, like a few that really like, even when you thought like it's not that important, somehow things stuck with me, and I didn't realize the true value of it, even if you thought like it's so simple. It's not like, I didn't feel like this is going to be very relevant for me. I think just like one thing that pops into my head was Lisa Pomeroy. She was like she did a 2D visualization, and she sort of taught us like basic like design principles in terms of like how you work with typography and things like this. And one of the aspects that I loved about it is like the incredible passion she had for the topic, for typography and design, and she was sort of to bring this across, and experiencing that and learning what she taught us. And she was also a really good teacher in giving us that type of skill. It's still very present to me because of that, and I still adhere to these things that she taught us. And I saw the incredible value in a business context if you're able to bring across information in a very coherent, consistent manner is so incredibly valuable. And I think, and these are the moments that I thought, like, if you meet teachers like this, is so meaningful, and it's really, really stuck with me. And I had a few interactions, many, like also for Jürgen Zahlenbacher was a very interesting guy. Like this was the creative personal branding one, which I felt like that also helped you sort of find like, who are you actually? Like, what do you want to do? And why do you want to do this? And also in a self-discovery thing. And like, there's a lot of also lectures that inspired me that were really good experiences for me as well.
Thank you. Sergio, you said you already did you did an apprenticeship, right? A commercial apprenticeship, and you said you were working before already. How did this work experience that you already have or had shape your studying? Or did it shape, or were you able to integrate it, or yeah?
During the studies, design management and design here can sound very abstract. And that's, especially in the beginning can be quite frustrating because you don't know how to use it. And I think me having work experience before and also working alongside my studies helped me to give all that theory a context and applying it somewhere and seeing which of it makes sense to me, which doesn't. And then I was also being able to bring it back to the room here, to the rooms and to the group work. And I think it helped me apply it, yeah, in a specific context.
Thank you. So we are already now in the work a little bit, moving towards the work. And when we now look there, I think, Thomas, you were also already saying, you were asking yourself, how is it helping me to find a job? And Carole, you were sharing a little bit about the network. And so I'm now curious to talk about with you how you created, in a way, a career. Because it's not a study program where you just study and then you know what you will be working, but in a way you need to create your own career. And it's a design process in that sense. Yes. So yeah, how did you get there where you are now, and what helped you?
I think, to me, as you say, there is not the job out there, or you can't expect to find the job out there that you find in a job ad that you can apply to and then you get it. What I felt like coming from design management, to build a career has a lot to do about being open, talking to a lot of people. And I think I had a really good, when I did my first internship, like my coach or my boss at the time said, like, well, you should focus on the task 80%, like what you're asked to do in an internship, 20%, you should just go out and talk to people. Go meet everyone in the company that you find remotely interesting. Start building these connections with people, because with conversations, you discover more opportunities of where you could bring in your skill and help people, and you basically create your own jobs at that point. And I think I stayed true to this principle throughout my career, is like just stay in touch with people, talk to people, learn about what they're doing, and see how you can bring your own backpack of skills into that context. And if you do this, there's like countless opportunities for you out there to find a job or a position, because our skill can be applied pretty much in any domain.
I would also say, don't take yourself too serious in the beginning, or take our discipline not too serious, because we somehow like get the skills to really be in a lead position, to be at the management table and to change the culture and the whole world, and you just can't in the beginning. So I applied for a marketing position. I had no idea what marketing is. And luckily it was a startup and they realized that this is not a good fit. And then I just went to UX design, and I was so lucky that somehow I ended up there. And from there I learned to just adapt, look for the keywords, look for the cultural fits maybe more than the the exact job position, because it's not going to wait out there for us. Probably never will, even if the majority of design just would be different than it is today.
And I think in particular in Switzerland, I do think outside Switzerland, being in Nordics, UK, is a lot more opportunities for like our discipline. If you want to stay in Switzerland, it's more harder to find, I would say. It's less developed, I would say.
I mean, I'm more in the beginning of my design career, so I can definitely learn from you, and it was very interesting to listen to how you got there where you are. But I think something that I try to do now, today, in my position, to kind of shift into what I imagine what it is to work as a design manager, is to be proactive, is to kind of show your interest and show the value you can bring in something that you see that others don't, because you learn design management. And over time, you will gain their trust, and you can do more of that. And then eventually, maybe you can go a different position and you can highlight what you did there. And I think that's also kind of how you create your own career. So you're not going to find, maybe you do, but you're probably not going to find the perfect position, and that's fine. But find something in your position where you can be proactive and show leadership in that area, and then people will trust you.
And very funny, I think when I'm listening to you, like I remember also a mentor that I had in my career at Swisscom. It's also, I tended to shy away to try out things, because like most of the people I work with weren't familiar with the way we work. And she always encouraged me, do try out new things, even if you feel like they're very senior and they feel very intimidating. But it's like, always try it out. In 90% of the cases, it's going to work, and it's going to be very gratifying. I'm just giving an example, like that was very ridiculous actually, but it was a good experience. Like you would have, I was at Swisscom at the time, and you would have a sort of a workshop to moderate with the top management, and you would do things like warm-ups to get people in the flow, right? And I would like, I can't do a warm-up with these folks. They're like intimidating. But she encouraged me, just try it out. You'll see, let's see how it works. And you would do like warm-ups, like we did the shark and thing exercise, where you would walk around and one is the shark and is eating up the other ones, just to like break the ice a little bit. We did this with the top management at Swisscom, and I felt very uncomfortable. We did it, but it was so hilarious and so funny, and it broke the ice, and it was a very calm and relaxed atmosphere after, and it was a good thing to do. So I'd also like, with being open, also try out new things whenever you can, because oftentimes these are also moments where you build your skill and your courage to try out new methods in a setting where it's not usual to do it.
Yeah.
You definitely have to be courageous. Yeah. I think that's a good.
Yeah.
But actually, it just reminds me of a secret skill that we have, because I think design managers, they are courageous enough to do presentations and to do warm-up methods and to just stand there and be present, be positive. And so much people in business are not. And that's just, you can shine, and then you are invited to rooms because people like to listen to you. That helps.
Yeah, and again, it comes down again to just really walk the talk and show what you're able to do, and do the work, and so that others can experience it, right? Because this is also the experience that I saw in the moment. Others, especially leaders, see what you are doing and questioning the things, as you said, Sergio. They open pathways. So and they see the qualities when we're doing the work. Yeah.
It goes back to what you actually said during our discussion. It's like once they experience it, then they're open to it. So you have to make them experience it.
Yeah, but we need courage. Yeah. Are there any skills that you learned during the design management that you feel this is something that you regularly apply, or that still helps you? I hope it's a lot, but maybe some things. Yeah.
It's even hard to point your finger at it. I mean, to me, and I think naturally, like all the research, more research disciplines are very important for us. So like I think with any, even if it's strategy, even if it's a transformation project, I always hone to the research skills that we got, like being able to make sense of data, doing qualitative research, doing more quantitative research. Like this type of skill is super relevant, and I use like in pretty much every aspect of my professional life, but also not just like having that research skill, but also being able to bring across like information in a way that people understand and grasp it. And the whole participatory design skills, like being able to take people into a creative process, clients, in a participatory manner, is also something that I always use and is incredibly valuable. And what you say, presentation skills, like being able to stand in front of people and tell a story. Like oftentimes it's not just, I think what we're also really good at is wrapping things into a story instead of just like playing out, presenting some boring management slide where half of the room is going to fall asleep and not remember anything. Like I often get requests for people because they appreciate that storytelling skill. Yeah, and I think these are like things that I always use that I got from here.
Can I quickly jump in there? Because with the research, it's not always easy to do research, right? And budget is always limited. Yes. And so how do you integrate research? Because this might be also very different. Maybe it can't be that deep or...
It's always a hard sell because people want outcomes, they want solutions. They don't value the aspect of research, especially in a consulting case. So I think we're always forced to be pragmatic about it. So like we usually can't do the fully fledged research because they're not buying it. So we have to be a bit more creative there and also be willing to be pragmatic. But I will never accept to not do it at all. Because to me, it's also like if people haven't done it before, they don't yet see the value of it. So I think there I also try to find a very pragmatic approach to do the research design in a way so it is for a client also more easy to accept. And that's, I mean, also I feel I'm certainly convinced also the research design is there's different approaches to how you can do it to still like serve the purpose of the project. But yeah, I think I usually find a way that I can sell also a piece of research, but there it's also like a dialogue and feeling the client. And also if you can't do a lot of research initially, so you have a good confidence in terms of the things you're working on, the relevant things, I try to then sell it after. Say like, okay, then we work with assumptions, but then I'm very clear about that. We're working with a lot of assumptions here, but let's then verify them after, then at least add some research pieces after. Then I try to like do it in that way.
And depending on the room, I'm trying to explain then if you're not testing it in the beginning, we're going to test it in the end, and we already built the thing. So like, then I'm trying to do economic calculations for them. Sometimes works, sometimes doesn't. And just one point, I'm always trying to pull the whole project team into user interviews. They need to listen to the users or to the humans that use the product. And that's something that always is a magical moment, especially when they were so sure that their idea is the best idea they ever had. And then the first person comes in and is like, what? Where do we, what? And then you just have this reality check and all the arguments just poof away. And the experience part, yeah. And I also just started to, I don't work when we don't do research. It doesn't make sense. Then you're not in our methodology. Then I can't, I don't know. Yeah.
I haven't gone really through a research process, design research process that I can add anything to that, but yeah, I can imagine that also here is another point that I just need to, or I would say, this also shows that how you can get them to get away from the being output focused is once you do the research, you can prove to them that this is not the solution and that it needs to be design added to it. So, yeah.
And do you have now in your position some skills that you constantly apply, or where you feel?
I would say it is the reflective and observative skills that I gained from here. So observing how do people work together, how do they imagine collaboration to be, and how is it actually from what I observe, and how can I be the person who shifts more into how collaboration can be, rather than judging and saying, oh, this is not how you want it to be, but kind of being the key person. But yeah, I'm very much in the beginning phases of that. Yeah.
Ah, that's so interesting. Yeah, yeah. And you? Skills.
Skills that I'm
Skills, yeah.
in general.
Or in your current position
That I'm using. I think I have so many different key moments in my everyday life where I have methods from the design management. I was so excited to see that you're doing systemic design now. That was not part of our studies, but just, we had service design as a subject with Andy Pollane, which was really, really nice, where I learned a lot. But then also from the ethnographic design as well, like going a step even further into research and exploratory research. But I'd also say, like, in the beginning, I didn't get why we have typography and graphic design and all that. I was like that. But I just have an understanding of so much that is happening around me. And I'm not the expert in a lot of things per se in these fields, but I know what they're talking about. That helps so much.
Yeah, that's nice. Yeah, but this...
Carole? We did the design principles, but we never looked at typography or graphic design. We did?
Yeah, I also.
Yeah, that was a couple of weeks ago for us. That's true.
But I remember different things.
But I think it's very interesting. I think what I also experience in working with clients is we're able to do a lot of connections that they're not able to do. Like especially when it's about BD and strategy, product and services, we see that, hey, this requires a really good visual design. Hey, here we need a copywriter. Hey, here we need someone who understands systems. These kind of disciplines are, in a lot of cases, not familiar to clients. And we're able to sort of say, like, hey, me, myself, I'm also not like an expert in this, but I have a network of people that I know, hey, he's absolutely top-notch UX design, or this is the greatest copywriter, and you can also like draw skills together.
And it helps making the design process visible to others. And I think if you are aware of a design process, I mean that's good, but you have to bring people on board, and I think the visual skills help a lot to bring people on board, like all of this.
Yeah, and I think it's so interesting because I can imagine that it's when you finish your studies, it's not just I have my backpack and I use everything at once. So as you said, Sergio, maybe you're currently more in applying more of this, and over time other skills come in, and then maybe others go into the background. So I think it's important to also there to see it's building up, and you, depending on where you are working, again, create your own role in that sense, and then we had that. Now I can use that. Yeah. Because we also have some students of the third year who will graduate, and very soon. Do you have, when you are searching for a new job or a new client, Do you have, yes, do you have a tip? Or do you have tips, or how do you go about? Because as we said, it's not, maybe there are no positions that said we are looking for design managers, especially not in Switzerland. How do you go about? Do you have some tips?
I think, in my opinion, it's like what I mentioned before with my previous boss. I really start reaching out to people, be interested, open, talk to people. Like, be it like maybe your first starting point is lecturers, like the ones that Carole understood, that are very open because they all also have networks. They can introduce you to people. And I have a very good experience with, like, in general, people are very open to share. Like, don't go out asking for jobs. It's the wrong approach. Just be curious, talk to people, learn about what they're doing. And this automatically opens doors because you feel there's a good connection, there's a good match, and that usually leads to a second conversation. We're actually talking about, hey, I think you have a really interesting skill set. It triggered something. I think you could be very interesting for that person. Like, approaching it like this, to me, is probably much more fruitful to find opportunities for jobs or clients. Like, actually, it was very interesting. To me, it's not much different finding projects and finding jobs. It's pretty much the same approach. It's basically really talking to people and trying to understand the challenges that they face in their role and how you can sort of add value to that. And think about, okay, if I was in his position with my type of skill set, I think I would approach it like this, and you share your approach. And that usually often opens doors and leads you to a second conversation and eventually a project or a job. Yeah. So identify these hubs. Also, people have good networks and they can introduce you to a lot of people, are a good starting point to just have a conversation with. And as I said, very important, don't go out with the mindset, give me a job, give me a project. That usually people block. Just be curious and learn about what they're doing.
And I think, I mean, I can totally agree on this, and this is also how I did it. But I think before even doing that, maybe know and reflect on what are the areas you're interested really in. So where is it easy for you to engage? Because then it comes naturally. Then it's not like, oh, now I have to text people and I have to be curious. But really, what are you interested in? Where do you want to learn more? Then text those people, and then also comes a bit more natural, and not just design. You're interested in design, okay? Yes, but maybe like designing. Which area do you want to apply it? Maybe this helps.
I would also add to that you can also approach it with looking at cultures of companies and trying to see what culture matches my personal belief system, and then just also check for what people work there. Are these people having a similar mindset, or even if they're not design managers, but are they open to change things, for example, or just work a bit different? Yeah, I think that helps as well. I think in the beginning I made a list of all companies that I thought they were cool, and then I just checked what positions do they have, and then, okay, does that make sense? Do I know anyone there? And then also did the interviews. I got my first job via WhatsApp text message with a friend, so that really helped the network again.
Yeah. It's a lot about the network, yeah. And it's actually a good jumping point with the culture of organization, because Carole, you worked in a UX research company, in a digital agency, in-house designer, you were self-employed, now you work at the city of Zurich. And so you had a lot of different roles along the design process, you can say, in different constellations. Where do you see, like, has the understanding of design changed over your career and in these different contexts, and maybe the value of it, how organizations value design?
So I think when I graduated, the world was at the point that design will save the world. That was this mindset. Like, we designers can do everything. They're all waiting for us. All these big IT companies hired UX designers. They wanted to make everything human-centered. They also got the business value of design. That was like this whole area. And I think over time, that was really cool because we got the mic to talk about design in the companies and to transform people. I think now, well, like my previous job, I was the design lead of 12 UX designers, and we all were let go. And in this year, I was at a conference in Copenhagen, Design Matters, and they all talked about design is dead. So I would say the value of design changed. But that's very black and white, and I think the world is not that black and white. But probably right now it's a bit more difficult to find the design position in the world because people are not waiting that much anymore. We were seeing that with those whole diversity programs in companies that were extremely quickly gone after one guy said so. And I feel that's also happening a bit with the design value in companies. So you need to be more conscious about where they're actually still open. Otherwise it's very frustrating and you're just taking the, how do you say, like the pressure of the world on your own shoulders and you feel like you have to transform the whole company, and that's definitely not funny. But it got a bit more difficult, I'd say.
Yeah. What do you think that is?
I think one point is really world politics. It changed. I think the news are more about ego-driven personalities and not exactly changing the world in a more human-centered way. I think that had an impact on big companies. It's not that difficult anymore to be very open about not caring. That somehow also it's okay to not care. That's something that I had to learn. But also, and that's on us, I think, on the designers, we try to adapt so much, talk in the business language, talk about KPIs, how design will bring the company's money, and we never, like, I think that's just not how we work and how we think, and also a bit too much pressure on our side. Like if companies are not open, if they're not opening the door and the culture for us designers to work in our ways, there's only so much convincing that we can do. And I think those doors just closed again. And yeah, probably it's also not too bad sometimes.
Do you think that it has to do with over expectations of what design can do?
Mm-hmm. As well.
Part, and the other part is of design not being able to deliver on expectations that are there?
Yes and no. I think we designers tend to think that we can do everything. We can solve every problem because we have the right tools. That's one part, I'd say. On the other hand, I learned in the last company that I worked that they hired loads of UX designers or designers per se, but they had no idea what they can do. And it was very much put on them to explain what the value is of their work and why are they actually hired and why are they in the room. And you were just talking about what are you actually doing here, and then still got the PowerPoint presentation to make beautiful in the end.
Yeah.
So,
and maybe to add there, and I think what you were mentioning, I think is very right. I think, let's say, like 10 years ago, there was a big hype around design. Oh, design thinking was all over, right? So like everyone was trying to do this. A lot of companies jumped on it. And I think that's the dangerous one. Like a lot of companies called it that they work with design. But at the end of the day, it wasn't really, it was more, it was just a lip service. You didn't really see them actually working that way and didn't really sink into the culture of companies. It was just like hip and trendy to do it so, and I think that was the dangerous one, right? So a lot of companies adopted these approaches, but haven't really properly understood what it requires to really work with design on many different aspects and layers. And then what happens? They didn't really deliver to what was expected or the high expectations they had towards design. And that led to a lot of organizations then dismissing it again because, oh, it didn't work. We tried that. It didn't. Like, it's, we're not doing this anymore. And that's the dangerous path. So like, then it's really hard to get back into conversations again. So like, well, maybe you haven't really done it the way it would have to be done.
Yeah, I think that we are where we are because of design thinking.
Yeah.
Design thinking
Yes.
is a recipe that
Yeah.
doesn't work with complexity.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
So, and many designers jump into the wagon and they said, yes, let's go there.
Yeah.
And organizations realize design thinking doesn't work. So now what do we do?
Exactly. And that's a tough starting point right now. But also agree with this. I think it also has a bit of geopolitical dimensions, that because we were more close to like being more diverse and so we're more associated to that domain. So like all the companies that sort of like went that more that authoritarian direction, of course, will also like put us in a bit of in the same box. But I also believe it's very loud. But I don't think that is necessarily true in a lot of organizations, especially in Switzerland. I do still see a lot of organizations that actively push toward human-centered, user-centered approaches still to this day, and even more, and that it has become much more a key aspect of how they want to run their companies. So like I do still see this left and right happening at the moment. So it's not like that it's dying. I don't see, at least not in Switzerland. It might be confused as such because the other ones are just very loud at the moment.
Yeah. I actually, do you have?
Yeah, I like, Carole, that you said design will save the world, because that was the approach in the 50s, so post-World War II, and particularly in the 60s with Vietnam, that led to Victor Papanek writing the book Design for the Real World, and Tomás Maldonado writing what in English was translated as Design, Nature and Revolution. And I see that we are still struggling with the nature thing. Tomás was my teacher in a PhD in Italy, and he said, of course he changed that, right? And he realized that design alone could not save the world. But do you think that design education plays a role in making believe to students that design alone can save the world?
I mean, to me, I'm definitely one of the ones that like it's not design itself that is going to save the world, because it's not just designers that you're going to work with. So like it's always, it's a collaborative effort of many different disciplines. And I think that's also what I've learned, is also to appreciate other views on the world. Like there's, I think when I worked with Accenture and you had like very diverse teams of very different disciplines, like you would work with IT architects and you would work with transformation, like human, or like what do you call it, the HR transformation experts. You have many different domains and disciplines and competences that they bring, and also to value, okay, you're part of a system yourself, and all of them add value. And I think this, and you sort of are also a puzzle piece to this bigger system. So it's never just us saving things, but the best approaches or project came out with where we managed to collaborate in a way together, and we're forming some kind of unity. And that was then usually the most powerful things, that if we get that to work, the outcomes usually are very solid and they work, and they are actually things that are being adopted and
maybe it's through fostering those collaboration processes that we can help do something in the world.
Exactly. Yeah.
There you got the teamwork again.
Yeah. Project's very important, even if it's painful. And it is painful oftentimes, but it is, yeah.
Also, there's a sentence that just came through my mind. lots of designers have the tendency to say we do stakeholder management. And I think that's one of the, we manage the others. And that's one of the wrong goings. Like no one waits to be managed from us. So yeah, like try to understand them, work with them, not manage them, I think.
Yeah. And that's also, I think, very true, because I also learned to be a lot more flexible with my own methods. I try to also think integrative with other disciplines. Like it's not just, I'm not trying to push my way, but I try to integrate with their process, because they also have their roles, their own expectations towards them. So you also have to think alongside them, and how you can sort of think with many different disciplines. Yeah.
I think just to briefly mention, that's why like now we're calling it more stakeholder engagement to kind of foster this collaborative work. Yeah.
Yes.
And what also came to my mind, because you said in the 50s or 60s, design was saving the world as well. I think it's also a bit of a roller coaster.
Yeah.
Maybe now we're a bit in this, design is not anything or the end of the world or whatever, but it's going up again. And I really believe in that. Otherwise, I would have changed to teaching, or I don't know.
Yeah, true. And I, for example, also experience it in looking at how design organizations change within companies, right? I think you can also like observe how different approaches all of a sudden are more dominant or dominantly visible in companies, being like, you have like in-house design agencies, like they're more like the superstars of the kind of the creative ones, the cool ones, and very ego-driven, and like this is like one extreme. And then comes the wafers, like, oh Jesus, they're just like, let's get rid of them. And then they're being pushed into the organization, and then you have like designers embedded in different teams, but there's no unity anymore. So they feel like, okay, everyone can do design. And you see like how also organizations shift the way they see our work within organizations. And I also there I have the feeling like there's no silver bullet to it, like the way you also do it in organizations. But you can also there see like really the different waves that organizations have with design organizations.
Yeah. And Thomas, you did, after you graduated and worked, I think 5 years after, you also did a master's in business administration, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Why did you decide to do that, and how did it help you, especially with maybe the two different understandings that you learned?
To me, it was more because I realized in my work, especially in consulting, etc., I would always work with very senior folks. And I felt like I also need to get a bit more on their level to be able to have a conversation on a leadership level. So that's sort of my, and I also felt like I'm not good enough on the business and economic aspect of things. Even though we had it in design management, I felt like I need a bit more substance there. And the learning there was like I can come to that after. But that was like my notion why I wanted to do it, because I felt like design alone is not enough to get the ears of very senior stakeholders. But if you sort of have also the economic side of things, you have a different type of conversation with them. Then you can also have a better platform to also articulate why design is more valuable. However, in the studies, when I did the MBA, I was actually a bit disappointed, but then again, was also kind of gratifying to learn like how much we got in design management, because there was not much more substance I got in my MBA. Like a lot of the things were already there. I had it there. Like I had marketing, pretty much the same thing at DMI. I had finance. Finance was better. That was a lot better in the MBA, and was super tough for me. But a lot of the things that we got there was actually what we've done at DMI, and I was actually quite then again astonished how valuable that the program is, because we get all the subjects where we had in DMI. So retrospectively, I wouldn't do it for the education anymore, but the MBA is also an access to a network. Like I did it at EPFL, you would meet a lot of folks there, you would meet other professionals that come from very different domains. So it would also give you access to a lot of other professionals. Yeah. Yes.
So much is already there.
It is,
Yeah. So nice. Do you have questions?
I have a comment.
Yeah.
It was very nice to listen to you. And there seems to be a paradox because the challenge is working, so teamwork when learning, but at the same time, that's the bless that then after you know how to work with people, how to engage in collaborative process, and how to create a network that is what will help you eventually through the career path. So how do you feel about that paradox of the challenge is the bless? Is it a life paradox? Is it a disciplinary paradox?
I think to me, I sort of accepted it in a way, but it's also, to me, that also gives me a lot of freedom. I feel like absolutely unlimited. And I think working like this over the years just allowed me to feeling very isolated and not knowing what to do. It basically allowed me to give access to so much right now. And I sort of accepted this, but that also like changed the way I work. Right now I have access to so many different types of projects, be it like classical product service development, be it more strategy, be it more transformation. And I was, as I said initially, I was always someone who's very into, I have broad interests. I love to go anywhere. I love working on challenges, and by sort of just like accepting that this is the way I sort of engaged on that journey, it became just like the way I work in my day. Yeah.
Can you repeat the question?
So Katharina started asking you what were the challenges and teamwork, that for me is not teamwork. Teamwork for me is more assigning tasks, and collaboration is more about relating. So I think that today I would say that in the program you are more learning to relate, not only within a team or a group, but also with when engaging with stakeholders, if that is the right word we want to use. So that is a struggle, but at the same time, that is what helps you. That is what helps you find a job, that is what helps you create a network, that is what helps you go through a career path that is uncertain. So it's not a question, it's a comment. I know it is a paradox.
Yeah.
What seems to be a struggle in the first 3 years of the program seems to be what makes you the person who you are and pursue the career path that you want.
Yeah. It still is probably like, it still is a struggle, but you're familiar to that struggle and you have less, you're less.
You accept it.
Yes.
And you have skills to go.
And there's less fears around it, or you're more familiar to being in this. Yeah.
I also think I just became a lot more relaxed around it. Like if someone is very like not open to work together, then I'm just a lot more like, okay, let's find out why. I'm not taking it personal, or I'm thinking of the personality colors that we had while studying, and I'm like, oh, you're maybe red. Like all these things. But for example, I really struggle with these open, what are they called? These open layout offices, which that's just the standard now. And I need sometimes just space to think, but that's just how it is now. Yeah, I think.
Yes, I did. Yeah. I'm sorry, I forgot your name.
Carole.
Carole, you mentioned beforehand how with time the concept of design changes, right? So here during our studies we've looked at what design is and the value it has. So maybe all three of you could, well, you don't have to answer, but what does design bring in a value sense, and how do you bring that across to people that don't see design as we have learned here and more, let's say, in a traditional sense?
I would say what I said before. I think you have to find out yourself where you can add the value in where you are in a specific position, and make it visible to others.
Do you have a specific example?
Like let's say we talked about like collaboration. So when you see like processes of people working together, and you see how maybe like there's information not getting across here, then you can use design to rethink how people collaborate, and you can make that visible and show it to others, and that is design. So you need to apply it to some sort of context, and you have to find the context where you are. That's what I would say.
I also think for me the value of design is often to create something that is, you know, like adds value to people or the world in general and is long lasting and so on. But often the other side doesn't want to hear that because it's very idealistic and very designy. And then you need to talk about, we're going to be faster, we're going to create more revenue, we're going to, like, sometimes these are the keywords. And if it's the side effect, then it's fine for me as long as my values are still there. But
I agree. I think I would usually I try to avoid even calling it design, because it's for a lot of people who are not at that level, it's misleading, the term. So like in my work, of course I want to educate people or like sort of bring across like what is the power of design, but I try not to use concepts or labels to educate, let's say, a client, but I try to more like use our ways and methods of doing things to infuse the type of work that I'm doing. For example, like let's say I had a project with Swiss, and they come with us because they have like a lot of problems with their crew and crew planning and pilots. Like you're given a challenge that they're struggling with, and you would just try to see like how can design or like the things we're taught help to deal with that type of challenge. And I would just more like introduce my methods and approaches to sort of like how I'm going to support that challenge without explicitly calling it's design, because then you get to that level where you first get them to experience things, to say like, hey, and then maybe after you can sort of do the education. Like, and by the way, this is how designers work, right? So like maybe it would have been you failed with this to solve this challenge in the past because you tried to think very solution oriented, but you haven't really listened to your crew or your pilots and the struggles they have in their day-to-day business and how their journey works in their context, because that's where the secret lies to coming with an approach that works. So like you would only after sort of then educate them more in terms of why this type of works, like how we approach design is more valuable. So in a sense, like I try not to name it. I don't try to educate, but understand the context of who you're working with. And you just try to infuse your knowledge that you bring to the table to sort of help then get to a better outcome for the client or whoever you're then designing for.
Maybe I just wanted, because I just had I learned recently that the word prototype, for example, is a no-no word in the government or just in the Zurich city. You have to say another word that I don't remember, but sometimes it's these little words, these little clues that you just, if you use them, they get scared or they have, oh, no, you're now doing whatever. And it's sometimes really helpful to not use those words to get across and to...
Or to find what are the right
yeah,
words.
yeah, exactly.
Maybe title?
It could be, yeah.
And who?
No. It's really like, I think it's pilot actually, because it's something that you're trying out. An experiment is also something that we can say, yeah, but not a prototype. Yeah, yeah, exactly. A prototype, they see like that you're building something with a lot of money, and they're like, no. Yeah.
Something that I noticed, so we started a series this year, and we have some videos in the website about how design is evolving. And I think that like life and every discipline, it's evolving. And actually the new candidates will be reading a paper that is called 40 Years of Research in Design Management. And it has very interesting tables about how design management has been changing in the last 40 years. And you use a lot the term human-centric, which is a very contested term right now, because it's anthropocentric. However, I'm going through a lot of unpleasant situations with governments, 3 at least, dealing with what I call the bureaucracy of dying. And you can see how governments in particular have a very poor, and I'm talking about 3 different continents, very, I would say maybe a lack of services or awareness that they should provide a service. And certainly they are not human-centered. So they cannot think about what will be the emotional space, the cognitive space of this person, but also they ask for a lot of data that they already have. A lot. Once you pay taxes, your DNA is there. If you are married, if you are not married. However, I'm having asked, can you please send me your marriage certificate? And you said, you have all of that. So how do you see that today in your working spaces? They're moving away from human-centered design, talking about more systemic and considering nature, that in the book of Maldonado was already there, design, nature, revolution was, maybe because he was in Latin America. So how do you see that? Is the presence of nature, or is the presence of, we are not just the only ones in this planet, presence? And then how do you see still the need? Because still many organizations are not even in what we are criticizing as very anthropocentric.
I think the main problem here is the mindset or the attitude they have when they work. I think the biggest distinction, and it's very known, between public administrations and private ones is that private ones, they need the profit. So they need to make money, and they need to be human-centered because otherwise they won't make money. Yeah, and with public administrations, what I experienced, because I did my apprenticeship in public administration, it's often there are the laws, and we act based on the law. So there is this law, and if you want something, I'm a kind of like very negative put. I don't care. This is the law, and we just do what the law is, and we're just executing the laws. And that, I think that's the problem with where the human-centeredness gets lost. I think often that's where people forget that yes, it's not like that service-oriented maybe, but you're still dealing with humans in various phases. And I think there's probably still a lot of potential, but I don't know how it is today. But that's what comes to my mind when you talk about this. Oh no. Maybe more modern public administration, but I worked in a very conservative public administration that what you said is really, I mean, I know what you're talking about. So.
He used to do that.
Yeah, that's true.
If you want to know, asking for a marriage, we have. But I mean, the crossing of information across departments, it costs a lot of money.
Yeah.
I mean, my feeling is like, it also has to do a lot with managing that kind of complexity in organizations. Plus, like a lot of organizations are like running systems. They have their ways of doing things. It's a running system. You're not going to shift a moving train while it's moving. So I think there's like several different dimensions, I guess. I think on the, let's say, the human-centric aspect, a lot of companies are making that progress. I think in Switzerland, I do observe that, like when I started out, the term human-centered wasn't really a known expression in Swiss organizations. Today, it's pretty much, people know what they mean. So like it often is associated with Kundenorientierung or Kundenzentrierung. And I think most of every like insurance, bank, pharmas, everyone has that understanding and they started building these components there. Let's say like when it comes then to more system-centric, it's the same thing. I do think like a lot of they lack probably the understanding of how to be able to grasp this kind of organizational complexity and make the relevant links. And I do think they miss the skill to be able to do this. Plus the current construct of how organizations are wired today doesn't really allow them to operate in that manner. So you need a starting point where you sort of cultivate that type of thinking within an organizations. And I do observe it with some DMIs, like say Dina at SBB, for example, also former DMI, she uses like system-centric approaches in her work. And I think these are the seeds that you're starting to plant where you can sort of bring that understanding to organizations. And I also heard other people who are not from DMI sort of applauding to her work and say like how amazing this is and what kind of new understanding that this would create. So I believe like, whereas human-centered in the past 10 years, we have made some progress. This one will be like the next level, and I don't see it yet. I see individual satellites in organizations that have that skill, that start building out that competence, but it still requires a lot of, and I think the way to go is not to come in like a profit into an organization, but actually start to show how it creates value in organizations in that context. And that's probably the way how we can sort of elevate. Yeah.
Yeah, and I also think, because when we think about, for example, more than human design or integrating nature, or I mean, there are now, I feel it's starting like what happened, for example, 10 years ago, or even a few years earlier with design thinking. So frameworks are built, a lot of people are talking about it. And I think now is the time to learn why, for example, design had this dip. Because if we do it maybe again, like that's the framework, we need to do this, and we educate a lot of people who then will do the design thinking, so to say, in organizations, but we don't really do it properly. So we might again create another dip. So I think it's important that if we want to integrate it, to maybe do it more like planting the seeds and let it.
Yeah, absolutely. I think what I learned, or what I sincerely believe is usually the most successful is, and what you also observe is like you need to start somewhere, right? You start to build alliances within an organization. You have to find a coalition of the willing that feel like, hey, this is interesting. And it's not necessarily the ideal place to start, which would by textbook would be the perfect place to start, but find the ones who are willing to collaborate with you. And you sort of bring that approach to a domain where they feel like it's super relevant. Like if you want to push more system-centric or planet-centric approaches, and you're going to work with HR, and you feel like, why should I work with HR? But they're willing, they want to try it out, and you create that first success for why this makes value. People start talking about it, and they feel like they start noticing things, and this, I think, how you can sort of initiate a bit of a transformation, and you can build on that. And that's also like, again, working with people. You have to understand the context and collaborate with them. That's the way you sort of, I believe, could initiate that.
And I think that's a really nice closing, building coalitions. So thank you very much to the three of you. Also for you, for your questions and attending today. And we still have some time to talk to you, and maybe also afterwards, if questions come up, maybe reach out to you.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. Feel free to, whenever you want to reach out to me.
Questions of their project.
Yes. Thank you so much.
Thank you as well.